This is National Mentoring Month, and research shows that mentoring benefits Black boys in a number of areas, including academics and social emotional well-being. My first guests are from an organization of professional African-American males who use the power of books to mentor young men into adulthood. The group is called The Bar, which stands for Brothers Also Read. I'd like to welcome the president, Milton Fletcher, and the president-elect, Warren Galloway, to American Black Journal. Nice to see you both.
Great to be here.
Yeah, so I love this idea because as a kid growing up, books were a big part of my life. Then they still are, of course. But I do remember how stories, and especially stories that I could relate to or see myself in, really reinforced the idea of validating my place in the world and making me feel as though the future could be bright for me, just like it was for everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me how you got started with the bar.
Okay, well, it goes back to the year 2003. At that time, I was working at General Motors, and I had hired a young man from Cass Tech to work in the summer. And I didn't keep him busy enough. So one day I walk into the office, and he's sitting there reading a book. And I said, his name was Robert Johnson. I said, Robert, not keeping you busy enough? He said, no, sir. I said, so you like to read? He said, yes. I said, do you have other friends who like to read? He said, yes. I said, so do I. I said, why don't we get together and read together, and we'll mentor you guys.
Yeah.
And that's how the bar got started, and we've been around since 2003.
Yeah. And so it's like a book club, right?
Well, yes, it's like a book club.
It's like a book club, but with extra.
We grew up. And so we refer to ourselves now as a literary organization because our focus is not on reading as much as it is on the development of critical thinking.
Yeah.
And so what we do is, and the people we mentor up, down, internal and external to the organization. And when I say up and down, I'm referring to the fact that those of us who are older get mentored by those who are younger.
By the younger, right?
Yes,
you don't always expect that.
Right,
but
it happens, yes, thankfully.
So talk about your involvement with the bar.
So I've been an active member for probably the last 4 years, and I've become a very active member in terms of the mentoring that we're doing in the community, leading some of the initiatives. We are in the process right now having our first national conference of the bar, which will be held here in Detroit, September 18th through the 20th. And our goal is what we call creating positive change through conversation. And we're excited about it because it will also give us a chance to bring young men to the conference to be able to hear conversations that affect them in the community. And that's where some of the mentoring that we're doing is taking place.
So a national conference, I mean, are there bar chapters in other cities?
It's interesting you say that. We're actually in the process now of launching our official first chapter outside of Detroit in Atlanta. And so, but we do have members that actually fly in on a bi-monthly basis for our bi-monthly meetings to participate. So it's just a natural progression as a national organization that we begin to have chapters in other cities.
Talk about how you're recruiting people to participate in this, both the mentees and the mentors.
Sure. So I would say that initially, back in our formative stages, we were just excited about any brother that expressed an interest in reading. And as I mentioned, we grew up, and so now the focus of the organization is not so much on reading as it is on the word also. And so when we look to recruit individuals, we're looking to find individuals who are also reading.
Doing other things, also reading.
That's right, yeah. And so that's the first step, and so we find that. And we're blessed because there are a number of brothers, in fact, I'd say the vast majority of the brothers that are currently in the organization are very active doing individual mentoring. And we are working together to develop a collective effort that we can put in place.
And that collective effort, talk about how that would be different.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have done and are doing is we have a partnership with Chandler Academy. And there are a group of young men there that have formed, and they call themselves the Gentlemen's Club. And after we have read a book, then we go and sit with a group of them and go through the same exercise, if you will. What we found is when we first started, we thought we had to pick books that would be age appropriate.
Right.
Well, at their high school, and they're ready.
That's it. Yeah.
Anything we can handle, they can handle.
No, I can remember in high school in particular, the curriculum, the books that they were introducing would lead to these scintillating conversations among teenagers about the issues that come up.
Yeah.
So tell me about your personal experience here, being part of the organization, and what does that mean for you?
It's allowed me to take my critical thinking to another level.
Yeah.
I mean, not only with the reading, but really taking what we read and impact the community. And it allowed me to be more of a whole person in terms of impacting. We're all involved with things outside of the bar, but when we come together as a collective effort, the impact is much greater. And I'm seeing that and being a part, and it motivates me, it excites me, and it also allows me to reach back and bring other young men into the organization who could benefit from the experience that we have. And that's when we talk about mentorship, that's where we're making that impact right there with these young men who are growing up and who could benefit from the type of organization that we offer.
Sure. Talk about some of the books that that you make part of the bar.
So we read recently the book by a Dr. Ibram Kendi.
Oh yeah.
Some of us individually read that, I should say, because he was here recently.
On
at the
anti-racism.
Yes,
he was.
exactly.
I interviewed him on the radio show
Yeah.
that I host.
Prior to that, we read in our last book, we read a book that really spoke to me in terms of speaking to why we as a country are where we are, and that's a book by Amy Chua, which was phenomenal. We read a book also recently. I'm trying to think of the one that was rather controversial that we really didn't like. Do you recall that?
That's probably why we don't remember.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I mean, we've read a vast variety of books.
Yeah.
Another one that comes to mind is a book that was written by Dr. Franklin. He was the former professor, president of Morehouse, and I'm forgetting the title of his book, but it was a great book that spoke to where we are as a people from a community standpoint. And he did an excellent job of speaking to what he defined the pillars in our community, and how those pillars could play a unique role in addressing positive social change. Really powerful book.
That's a pretty heavy list, though.
It is.
Are there any light titles?
I'm laughing because we participated in the National Book Club Conference in Atlanta back in August.
Yeah.
And when we spoke to the audience, because it was 99% women, and here are all these black men who also happen to read books, and we discussed some of the titles, and a young lady came up to me, an older lady, and said, "Do y'all read anything fun?" But we're actually reading right now, How About That for a Crack Baby by Sean Blanchard. And our next meeting is on the 18th. And so we will be reviewing that book, and we meet from 12 to 4 o'clock. And I've had people say, "Well, what do you do from 12 to 4 o'clock?" And then they walk away and say, "We didn't even have enough time to review the book."
We didn't have enough time, right?
So when I talk about, when we discuss this book, it's really deep, because when you read the book, you come in with one mindset, and then you walk away with 10 other versions of that book. And
I mean, that's one of the great things about what you're doing is sort of introducing the idea of reading as a social and cultural exercise, as opposed to just an individual one. I mean, lots of us read books, but interacting about books is something that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do, especially young black men.
My statement is that we read a book and then we come together and blow it up.
Yeah, right. That's right. Was it any good? Was it interesting? Did I learn anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the work, and good luck with the national conference. That's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
Thank you.